us your peace. Give us your peace.
Hello everyone, my name is Jameke. I am from Arima and I am a second year seminarian here at the Seminary of St. John Vianney and the Ugandan Martyrs. I'm 34 years of age and I'm going to share with you all a little bit about my vocation, a little bit about Medjugorje, the place that has been so special for me as being a part of my journey. So I grew up in a very Catholic family. I learned prayers, I prayed with my grandmother, I would go to Mass every Sunday. And my faith sort of just took a normal trajectory as any young boy would. And then I ended up going to another Catholic secondary school, St. Mary's College. I went to primary school at Arima Boys RC, secondary school at St. Mary's College. And that also helped a little bit with my Catholic faith. But as with many young teenage guys, you get caught up in all sorts of different things that boys do. So, and then when I was a late teenager, I would say age 16 and 17, I went through two tragedies in my life. My dad was murdered when I was 16 years old, and my grandmother died very soon after that at age 17. And I felt very lost, I felt very dejected, I felt very broken, and I had turned my back on God. I said, God, I don't want anything to do with you. I hate you. I hate everything to do with you and your saints and your angels and everybody. And that was it. I thought that was it for my story. But God had other plans. So a priest by the name of Father Ian Taylor, he was close friends with my grandmother. And he would have called my mom one day and invited us to do a Life in the Spirit seminar. Very reluctantly, I said yes. My mother told me, she said, you know, Jameke, this would make your grandmother very proud if you would go to this seminar. And even though I was very upset with God, I was very angry with God, I said, you know what, if it would make Granny proud, I would do it. So very reluctantly, I pulled up to San Rafael RC Church in 2009. And I remember immediately being greeted by just this large group of vibrant young people, praising, clapping, dancing for God. And it was so strange for me. I thought to myself, I said, well, they have to be crazy. Like, I don't understand what is so good about praising this God who doesn't answer prayer and this God who causes people close to you to die. Like, I was in a very, very dark place, you know, but I said, you know, let me just observe. So I did that. I observed. I looked at these young people and I saw something on their faces. They had joy. And even though I didn't want anything to do with God, I wanted joy because I wasn't happy at that time. I was living, you know, I was living for myself. At that time, I was in university, started going to parties, drinking, doing a whole bunch of different things. And this Life in the Spirit seminar opened my eyes for me to see that there were young people who were living differently from me, and they were happy doing it. You know, so I went through the entire program, and then at the very last day when we were supposed to be baptized in the Holy Spirit, I remember being so fearful and so hesitant because I didn't want the gift of tongues and I didn't want all this set of what I thought at the time was craziness. I didn't want those things, but God had other plans. So my group leader was praying for me and, you know, I opened my hands. I was being obedient, opened my hands and remember them praying. And after they prayed, I didn't feel anything. And I said, you know what? Maybe this was all a waste of time. And right as I said that, I remember just feeling this powerful presence overtake me, this warmth, this love that I never felt in my entire life. And in that moment, I just felt healed from all of the pain of losing my dad, all of the pain of losing my grandmother. And to this day, when I think back to that moment, it is one of the most powerful moments that I've had in my life. After that, I just felt the need to serve God in a real tangible way. So after that, I got involved in music ministry, got involved in teaching confirmation class. And then years after that, parish priest asked me to start preaching, which I felt I was not ready for at all. And it turns out when I started to do that, people would be so touched, people would be so impacted, people will tell me that it really struck a chord in them. And I started to really love it. Now, the idea of priesthood was nowhere in my mind at all. I had girlfriends, I wanted to get married, I wanted to have children, and I felt very much that was a normal trajectory for me. Until one day in 2016, when our parish priest signed me up me and another friend of mine, he signed both of us up to attend a discernment retreat right here at the seminary. And that day, a seed was planted in me when I attended that retreat. We looked at a video called Fishers of Men. And in that video, there was a priest who was in traffic. And he was on his way somewhere, and he was looking at the traffic, wondering what was causing all of this. And he saw that there was an accident higher up on the road, and a man was on the side of the road bleeding. And the priest immediately took his stool, put it over himself, took his book of prayer, and he ran to that man's side and gave him the anointing of the sick. And the man passed away. And in that moment, I just heard a voice say to me, "Jameke, this could be you." And I didn't know where it came from at the time. It just resonated so deeply within my spirit. And I said, "God, what is this?" Like I was 26 years old at the time. I had a girlfriend. I had my plans. But that voice, it shook me. It shook and it broke something inside of me. And I didn't realize at the time that it was a gentle seed that God was planting. "Jameke, consider this for your life." Suffice it to say, after that retreat, I came back down the hill and returned to regular life. And I said, maybe I was just hearing things. Maybe God wasn't really calling me. Maybe that was just my mind playing tricks on me. So I convinced myself that, okay, this wasn't for me. I was in 2016. And then in 2017, Father Taylor again invited myself and a group of maybe about 6 or 7 of us to Medjugorje. How did we end up going there? So there's an event here that is held every year called Jesus Explosion. And some people from Slovenia actually came down to Trinidad once to the Jesus Explosion. And they wanted us to come over there to do that event in their country, in Slovenia. So I was very privileged to be chosen, to be asked to go to assist with that. And we went to Slovenia. And I didn't even know at the time that Medjugorje was just like a bus ride away to Slovenia. So when we got there, they said, well, 2 of the days we've planned to take you all on a trip to Medjugorje. I was so excited for this opportunity. I heard about this place so many times. And now I was actually getting the opportunity to go. So while we were there at Slovenia, we booked our tickets to Bosnia Herzegovina, and we took a bus ride to Medjugorje. I didn't know what to expect because I just knew that the place was a very holy place. But I did not know that it was going to have a very profound impact on my life and steer the course for the rest of my life. So we got there at Medjugorje, and one of the very first things that struck me was that the day that we arrived there, the evening of that day, there was an open-air Eucharistic adoration. I remember that experience being so powerful. It was this huge, huge host that they had outside, and everybody was adoring this host, and we were singing songs in Latin, to honor and reverence the Blessed Sacrament. And I remember I was emotional, like tears were in my eyes, and the group I was with, I didn't even want to be around people. I just wanted it to be Jesus and it felt like everybody else just faded away. And I had a real powerful experience then. Now, the next day, we took a trek up Cross Hill. I did not know what to expect going up Cross Hill. Firstly, it was a very, very arduous trek. I got tired many times along the way, and actually what motivated me was that I saw some older people, some grannies and stuff. I said to myself, Jameke, you can't get tired or give up if these older people are making their way to the top. You need to push on. So I did that, and I got to the top of the hill. And I remember kneeling while at the cross. And while I was kneeling, I was praying, and I was just asking God to, reveal his plan for my life, reveal his call to me, reveal whatever he needed to say to me in that moment. And I heard a very clear, distinct voice say to me, Jameke, I want you to be my priest. It was almost audible. And I remember opening my eyes and immediately looking around, because I really thought that it was one of the guys who was on the trip with us, like leaning over my shoulder and like playing the fool. I thought it was somebody just kidding, But when I opened my eyes, there was no one there. I knew within my spirit that it was the same voice again coming back saying to me, Jameke, I want this for your life. That time, it made me a lot more emotional because I felt like in the year that passed, I thought that I had gotten rid of that voice. I thought I had suppressed it. I thought I was going to pursue the same path I wanted, marriage and family life, etc. But here's God coming again and saying to me, Jameke, consider this. This is what I want you to do. This is where you'll be happy. This is where you'll be fulfilled. This is where you're going to find the joy that you're looking for. And that took place in 2017. So the second time I went to Medjugorje, we actually went back to back, 2017 and 2018. In 2018, we also went back to do a second installment of the Jesus Explosion in Slovenia. Went across again to Medjugorje. That time, I think, was more enjoyable for me because I went with younger people. So I could have entered into the experiences of persons who were my age. But there was one particular memory that I have that second time. There's a statue of Jesus where it sprouts water at the knee. And I bought some handkerchiefs there in Medjugorje, and I kind of sapped the knee, and I said, I'd bring this back home for my mom because I know she has a devotion to the Blessed Mother. And she was struggling with particular ailments at that time. She has something called DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis, and doctors were saying that she would have to be on this medication for the rest of her life, and she had blood clots in her leg and stuff like that. And I brought back this handkerchief for her, and I had heard stories of people having healing from different artifacts in Medjugorje. So I said, I have faith, and my mom has faith. Let me bring back this handkerchief, and maybe through the faith and through the intercession of our Blessed Mother, she can be healed. She just held the handkerchief very dear to her heart, which she really believed in the intercession of the Blessed Virgin could heal her. And she prayed, and she's very devoted to her rosary, so she would say many rosaries a day. And a couple of times she would go back to the hospital after. She had many clots in her legs. And she would go back time after time after time, until after about 3 months, there were no blood clots in her legs. And this was about 2017 is how many years ago? 2018 is 7 years ago. And from 7 years to now, she's never gotten another blood clot in her leg from her waist go down. It's been clear. And prior to that, she had so many. Every time she would go, it would be more and more and more. And the doctors, they were so shocked. They were so amazed. They said, oh my goodness, what? She said, whichever God you're praying to, it's clearly working, So, of course, my mother attributes it to the intercession of the Blessed Virgin. And I also attribute it to that as well. And I'm so grateful that I can see the power of God and the hand of God work in my mom's life and by extension in my life as well. Between 2017 to 2020, that voice, I wrestled a lot with that voice. I went back and forth a lot. I tugged with it a lot. I thought of all of the plans that I had for my life. I had a very good job at Massimoto's. I was a manager there. They had planned so many different promotions and all of these different things for me. And I thought to myself, right, I have a good job. I have a good girlfriend. Life is made, this path is set out for me. Lord, I'll serve you in church every Sunday. I'll play music for you. I'll do different things for you. But to give it all up for the priesthood is hard. And I remember just going back and forth with him so many times. But the more that I would fight is the more that I would realize that it's almost like I was trying to grasp at straws. The more that I tried for my relationship to work is the more it crumbled. The more that I tried to progress on the job is the more difficulties I had on the job. And it was almost like God was saying, Jameke, you're running down all of these paths, but they're all leading to dead ends. And I want you to see the path that is leading to life. And I eventually came to that place of peace in 2020 when I entered the pre-seminary. I went into pre-sem, but if I'm being honest, I went in hoping that I was going to hear something different. So I didn't go in saying, yes, I'm finally going to be a priest. I went in saying, God, I'm gonna give this discernment thing a shot, and hopefully within the 6-month period or within the 1-year period, I'm going to hear you say, okay, I just wanted your courage for this step, but this is really not for you. I'm giving you your wife after. You know what I mean? And I went there for the year, and it was a beautiful year in St. Joseph. But at that time, after the year, I think I felt very pressured to enter into the seminary. By persons in church, by friends. I felt like a real weight on my shoulder at that time. And I said, I'm not ready yet, and I told the vocation director at the time, I said, Father Matthew, if I go up now, it would be because I'm going to please other people. And he said, okay, Jameke, that's not a good reason for you to go up. So I didn't, and I came back out, and I was out for 2 years. And in that 2-year period, I realized that the voice didn't leave. I had other encounters, other ways in which God spoke to me in that 2-year period. But I just realized as more time passed that I was just sort of delaying the inevitable. And that prompted my return to the seminary September 2 years ago. That prompted my return, and I have really enjoyed my time here so far. I look forward to where my journey continues. Yeah, I'm in my second year. So I'm in my second year now. Formation is very intense. So I think like a month inside the seminary and a month outside, it feels like two very different time frames, because so much is always happening in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart. There's a lot of transformation that takes place. And the person I was 2 years ago is definitely not the person I am now. And I'm so grateful for all the changes that God has worked and moved in my heart and spirit. But Medjugorje has definitely been a pivotal moment in my journey. Someone actually took a picture of that moment where I was praying. When God spoke to me in that moment randomly, one of the people who was on the trip with us actually took a picture of me kneeling praying in that same moment. So it's pretty cool that I have that memory saved forever of when God said to me, Jameke, I want you to be my priest. So, in a nutshell, that's my journey. I would encourage anybody to go to Medjugorje. It's a place that is thick and rich with God's grace. You see the hundreds of people that are lined up for confessions. You hear the many stories of so many different priests and seminarians who have had their vocation story attributed to Medjugorje. And I am privileged, and I pray to God one day that I could say that if by God's grace I'm ordained a priest, I could say that one day my story as well was inspired and assisted along by a trip to Medjugorje. So thank you so much. God bless.